Quickfire, introvert v extrovert. According to the internet, along with some of my own submissions, extrovert, introvert, extrovert, introvert, extrovert, introvert, extrovert, apparently, introvert, I guess. I'm not a huge fan of Harry Potter, to be honest. I know, take away my millennial card. Anyways, if you disagree with the choices I've made here, feel free to fight me in the comments and suggest other examples. Today, kids, we are discussing the introvert v extrovert debacle. Does that make you angry? Does that make you angry? Hi. Hi, Mr. i.e., introverts gain energy from solitude and are more inwardly focused, while extroverts gain energy from social interaction and are more outwardly focused. And I regret to inform you that battle lines have been drawn. They are going to war, and if you don't feel like you fit on either side of the battlefield, you might be an ambivert. You're Swiss. Funnily enough, Carl Jung, the guy who came up with the whole introvert-extrovert thing, was Swiss. He was. He's not anymore because he's dead. Anywho, this princess has an announcement to make. Regardless of whether you come from aristocratic stock or not, you deserve to feel the funkiest vibes. Balessa and I are sending out gift cards for toys and free toys to the lovely viewers of mine and the Cow's channel. Balessa is a bi-women company for all things sexual wellness. Their mission is to empower everyone to embrace, explore and celebrate their sexuality, because life is too short not to. Now, let me give you some of my personal recommendations, which all come with a 1-year guaranteed warranty and a 10-year quality guarantee. If you're looking for a classic recommendation with long-standing prestige, look no further than the Air Vibe for dual stimulation. It has thousands of good reviews, comes in a discreet, rechargeable case, and it is waterproof. The Pebble is gloriously simple and accessible with its ergonomic build and feels like an extension of your body. So I'd select this one for a beginner. Now, I've saved the best for last, in my opinion. J'adore the Whisper collection. Not just because they come in pretty colors, but because they are quiet. If you have flatmates and get an urge at 4 AM, these are the ones for you. Like the Whisper Bullet, the quietest bullet toy I've ever met. And it's so petite, it fits in your handbag or bum bag or even a pocket on some garments. It's TSA approved. So if you like to travel, you can bring it in your carry-on bag. Honestly, I could go on for aeons recommending Balessa's products because they've got such a wide catalogue. And I've been very fortunate to try a lot of their collection. The perks of being a YouTube princess, what can I say? So I want to spread the love and give you the opportunity to try their stuff too. So make sure to click the link in my description or in the pinned comment to enter a giveaway for free gift cards and toys. Everyone who signs up wins something. You're a winner, baby. You can always tell when her princess hat is performative and not representative of her true spirit. Who said that? Was that the cow? Oh yeah, so this is the only channel on YouTube where all videos are written and produced by a cow. She couldn't be in the video today because she is in fact an extrovert and she's out socializing right now. But if you like and subscribe, she might appear in the next video. So, who's to blame for all this? Stop blaming your problems on everyone else. Pick one person and blame everything on them. And that person today is Carl Jung. Carl Jung was a 20th century Swiss psychologist/psychiatrist. He met Freud. See, they even took a class photo together. Boys being boys. So yeah, it was Carl Jung who came up with the whole introvert v extrovert dichotomy. Psychological types. It's important to note that nowadays we use these terms more colloquially, and the way we use them might not be wholly faithful to their original meaning. Jung wrote about introverts in his 1921 book, Psychologische Typen. And then it was translated in 1923 a la personality types. I shall attempt to summarize what he said concisely, but bear in mind I have neither studied nor taught psychology, so don't hate me. I try to read good. So yeah, I'm gonna try and condense this book for you. You know, I'm like ChatGPT, except I'm better for the environment. And I'm prettier. Extroversion is characterized by interest in the external object, a desire to influence and be influenced by events, a need to join in and get with it, the capacity to endure bustle and noise of every kind, constant attention to the surrounding world, the cultivation of friends and acquaintances, none too carefully selected, and by a strong tendency to make a show of oneself. Oof! He has no secrets he has not long since shared with others. He lives in and through others. All self-communings give him the creeps, provided he is not too much of a busybody, too pushing, and too superficial. He can be a distinctly useful member of the community. Oof! But what he said about introverts isn't exactly rosy either. The introvert is not forthcoming. He is as though in continual retreat before the object. He holds aloof from external happenings, does not join in, has a distinct dislike of society as soon as he finds himself among too many people. In a large gathering, he feels lonely and lost. The more crowded it is, the greater becomes his resistance. He is not in the least with it, and has no love of enthusiastic get-togethers. He is not a good mixer. He also said of the introvert, appears awkward, has a brusqueness of manner, glum unapproachability, causes unwitting offence to people, is mistrustful, and envious of others. And here's my personal favourite zinger. He is overcritical and finds a hair in every soup. So there's a lot more there, but I'm not going to sit here or stand here and read you the whole book. He used the extrovert v extrovert categories as a way to categorize people into two distinct groups. These are the two genders, and I have to say, neither description is very flattering. Now, I wasn't there, but I'm pretty confident in saying that Carl Jung was no fun at parties. However, he was an influencer. The introvert v extrovert concept is Personality Psychology 101. It's used in many personality models and psychometric tests, such as the Big 5 personality trait model, aka 5-factor model, aka Ocean, aka Canoe, Cattell's 16 personality factors questionnaire, and the infamous Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, MBTI. The MBTI is generally not respected in the psychological community, but I suspect some of you are going to ask anyway, so I'll just tell you. I am allegedly an INTJ architect. But when I took the test about 8 years ago, I came up as an INFP mediator. My preference is INFP because Bjork is an INFP and I like Bjork. Whereas I don't want to be like Elon Musk or Ayn Rand. No thank you. And later on, people started to extend this theory, you know, with ambiverts who fall in the middle. Omniversion, which is a state where one is either in an extreme state of introversion or an extreme state of extroversion, and there's no in between, and it changes. And then there's the latest iteration as of this year, Introversion, being a perpetual outsider and never feeling as if you belong to any group, which was proposed only this year. What matters more now, though, is what I'd like to call the rebrand of the introvert. Jung did, in fact, use the word shy when describing introverts, at least in children, but he also refers to the adult introvert as someone who is cautious, appears awkward, and isn't a good mixer, which to me implies shyness or a form of social awkwardness. You know, as of today, there are dictionary definitions that refer to shyness, like in the Collins and Oxford Dictionary definitions, but if you look on social media and articles on the topic, there's an explicit distinction made between shyness versus introversion. Common law would have it that Introversion does not mean you're shy. The defining feature now is that it's about how one gains energy. Extroverts gain energy from socializing, introverts lose it from socializing, they gain it from solitude. People in the psychology field today make this distinction. And then I found this article on a website that is specifically targeted towards introverts, where the writer took great issue with the dictionary definitions of introversion, saying that they should be changed, and even mentioning someone before who campaigned to get them changed. They really take issue with the shyness allegations. And I guess this is because shyness has quite a negative connotation. People use it to describe children. It connotes fear, anxiety, awkwardness. Though shyness is more of a personality/emotional state, rather than a mental disorder like social anxiety. If you're shy, you're nervous around new people, whereas if you have social anxiety, it's a social phobia. So to be clear, I'm not pointing this all out just to be a pedant and gatekeep the definitions. I see someone wearing a Carl Jung t-shirt and I'm like, name his first 5 albums. I say this to highlight that even before the social media climate, psychology terms have been through an evolution and they have always been hotly debated. Nowadays, the consensus seems to be a preference for solitude and less stimulation. Think social battery, a handy metaphor, right? And despite everything I've just been saying, I do prefer this new definition. Bundling social anxiety, shyness, and introversion into one sloshed up cocktail oversimplifies these things. One can be shy but really desire to be with others. They might actually crave it and get depressed because they're not getting it. But then on the flip side, you can be an introvert, not because of trauma or because of a disorder, but just because that's how you are. And then you have people trying to force you to be more outgoing because they think it'll be good for you. With all that being said, you might be thinking, what is the need for all these labels? Can I just live? I'm just a girl. And you would have a fair point, hypothetical commenter. I do personally find the social battery metaphor quite helpful. And the label of the introvert can be a handy way of communicating how you are to other people. Explaining that you just don't like going out as much as they do. And it's not, personal, it's just how you are. It's just not that deep. However, some do take this whole introvert, extrovert malarkey a bit too far. Some people love their Myers-Briggs a bit too much. It's like astrology for entrepreneurs. So that begs the question, might we be a bit too invested in the introvert versus extrovert labels?
So what's your take?
I think introverts are morally weak.
100% disagree. That's quite rude. That's quite rude.
I must confess, I do come here today with a bias, and that is an introvert bias. Assuming that you even accept the premise that these things exist. But yeah, full disclosure, I like my alone time. I am a solitary creature. As far as I'm aware, I always have been. According to my parents, I wasn't very interested in playing with other children. I was happiest when I was just doing my crafts and lining up my teddy bears over and over for hours. That was my idea of a good time. Still is. So for this section, and I have warned you about my bias, I'm going to make my case for why I think introverts do get the short end of the stick. Susan Cain is the author of the book Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking, where she argues that modern Western culture, she is American for context, misjudges the capabilities of introverts, how it's seen as somewhere between a disappointment and pathology. This is not Susan Cain, but I thought the person in this TikTok explains it very well.
And my biggest issue is that extroverts can't just go find other extroverts. The same grace that extroverts are given for having big personalities and talking at 100 miles per hour, introverts aren't given that same empathy, that same grace. Like, our personalities are always seen as trauma responses or timidity rather than just being who we are. Like, I can just be a private person because that's naturally me. It doesn't have to stem from anything terribly wrong in my life. And being extroverted is really praised in our society because being private, being secretive is seen as a threat. Oh, we can't guess your next move. We can't have something to talk about, or your silence is intimidating because you make us feel like you're uninterested in us or in the conversation. And it's like, even if I am uninterested, that has nothing to do with you personally. Like, our society is built on tending to each other's egos and like band-aiding each other's insecurities, and I'm not here for that.
Kane refers to the classroom setting to highlight the bias towards introverts. How from childhood people are taught that to be sociable is to be happy. She refers to a news story with a teacher from Pennsylvania who didn't realize that the internet is forever and shared some choice words about her quieter students. A kid that has no personality. She just sits there emotionless for an entire 90 minutes, staring into the abyss, never volunteering to speak or do anything. Shy isn't cute in 11th grade. It's annoying. Must learn to advocate for himself instead of having mommy do it. And boy, does it get worse in adulthood? Because these judgments can affect your livelihood. Workers can feel pressured to socialize outside of work hours and fear that not doing so affects their longevity at the company. There are workers who have reported workplace bullying as a result of being quiet or keeping to themselves.
So I'm someone with autism and ADHD, and social interactions are really hard for me. And I tend to be very quiet in a lot of social interactions. So I don't speak a lot. Like if I'm not being spoken to, I'm not going to go speak. When I used to work a 9 to 5, I barely spoke to any of my coworkers unless I had something to talk about with them. But majority of the time I had nothing to say to them. So I wasn't going to speak unless I was spoken to. And every single job I've had, like, it's created animosity. Like, people got upset about me not talking to them, to the point that people either think I'm stuck up, or they think that I'm high maintenance, or they think that I'm being rude, or they think that I don't like them. And it's just like, no, I just don't have anything to say to you.
And of course, all of this is dependent on the job. And it's even dependent on what culture you live in. So much of this discourse has been focused on the US, which is often referred to as a more extroverted culture. One that rewards extroverted behavior and rejects introversion. Like, I notice that when I speak to Americans who find customer service people here in London rude, whereas for me it's just what I'm used to. They could be ruder, I wouldn't mind. But the scale of, whether a culture is more introverted or extroverted differs even by region. And that's the thing in the UK. There's a north versus south divide. People say that people in the north are friendlier. Correction. I'd say it's more the north of England. I don't know what people say about the Scottish. And of course, cities versus rural. And this applies on a micro level, like a personal level. I talk about this in my most recent video on the Girls Girl, but if a person isn't bubbly or super talkative with strangers, they're seen as cold and stuck up. And I've had a couple of occasions where someone said to me, like, why don't you speak much? And I should have said, why don't you shut the fuck up? And there's this pressure to perform niceness, like, especially as a woman. And what people are essentially asking for is inauthenticity.
Hot take, but I personally think that this is a cold take. Introverts have to work so much harder to make it in life. Being an extrovert seems so much conventionally easier because their natural state is to go out and communicate and to be energized by other people. They literally get fueled by being around other people's energy. While us introverts have to go out of our natural state as human beings and who we are as individuals just to make money, make friends, make connections in life, everything.
It is quite tiresome. She does also say this.
And that's not to say that extroverts don't struggle in their own ways. Like, obviously they do. Nobody's perfect. No human is perfect.
And I will get to that in a moment. Don't think that this is just me gonna be like, oh, introverts, woe is me, and extroverts. No. But quickly, let me address how, because of all this stuff I've been talking about, I think introverts have had enough and they are fighting back. We're in a post-COVID pandemic world, the internet terrain. So now, introverts have a voice, perhaps even the dominating voice online, which is why when you make a TikTok like this...
So I'm gonna need everyone to start popping out an earbud, turning off the noise canceling headphones when they're walking around, because a number of times I've tried to connect with somebody on the sidewalk or on the train, and I'm literally just met with silence as if I'm talking to myself is one too many times. The other day, I was talking to this girl and she was wearing a sweatshirt with a sorority I was associated with. And I was like, oh my God, girl, try till I die, baby. Ignored me. I tried one more time. I was like, nope, nothing. Second one was this older woman. She looked so fabulous and chic, like probably in her late 70s, maybe early 80s, red lip, scarf, glasses. And I was like, I cannot wait to look like you when I'm older. Nothing. Homegirl, earpods in. I was like, Grandma, somebody please throw me a bone. Like, let me connect with you. What is going on here? Please take out the headphones. Look at me.
You get ripped to shreds. But yeah, this was not well received. Tell us to smile while you're at it. Why are you talking to me? I don't know you. Yeah, so headphones means I don't want to connect with you actually. Okay, you are not entitled to anyone else's time or attention. Hope that helps. I thought that headphones/earbuds are the universal leave me alone signal. Baby, take the hint. Headphones on equal do not disturb. But yeah, this sparked discourse. But I have noticed some people took this very seriously. I don't think she deserves the guillotine. Yes, it's annoying. But on the flip side, in her defense, there are people saying, oh, people complain about being lonely, but then they don't want to talk to strangers. And it's like, no, she's just choosing the wrong people. A good rule of thumb is to not bother someone who's on their commute, who's traveling. They're probably tired from work. They're not in the mood to talk. Headphones, someone who's avoiding eye contact. Those are quite helpful signals. There are many people who are open to talking to and making friends with strangers. I'd just say anyone who's in motion, who's transporting somewhere, not the place. That would be my advice. Because you know what the worst thing is you know when you're having a really bad day and you feel like you're about to cry, and then someone comes up to you and tries to talk to you, and you're just like, please, I'm so not in the mood. Please leave me alone. I just want to get home. Even if they're not being malicious, they are doing precisely the worst thing in that moment. The last thing you need. And then if this stranger interacts with you and you either say no or don't give them the response they want, they might get angry with you. Especially if it's a man hitting on you. You know, it's like the whole, you look so unapproachable, then why are you approaching me?
I think introverts are morally weak.
100% disagree. That's quite rude. That's quite rude.
That was the nicest way I could put it.
The nicest way to put it?
Yes, if you're an introvert, I think it's not your fault. I think you matter and you are loved by God, but I think you need to try to change.
Come out of your shell a little bit?
Yes, human beings are social animals, right? The labor that we do is social, but we've set up these categories where we say some people do the social stuff and other people don't have to do it. Extroverts, we're taking intellectual risk in a conversation. We're taking theatrical risk. But then the introvert in the corner, they just get to be over there, and there's this narrative, oh, they have their genius ideas going on over there that they wouldn't even deign to bestow upon us mortals. Let's hear it then. Because if you're an introvert, then why do I have to host the dinner party every damn time?
Oh, you feel like it's emotional labor to be the extrovert?
I think it's emotional labor. I think it's social labor. I think it's intellectual. I think it's basically every kind of labor.
You think introverts need to come out of their shell?
Yes.
Yeah, this one also didn't go down well. I think extroverts need to stop being so self-centered. I think extroverts are obscenely insecure. So there, she's projecting. Maybe the tides have shifted. Perhaps introverts are the dominant demographic, or perhaps they're the ones who are more online. But you know what? I think I've spent enough time here providing a case for introverts. I think it's only fair for me to see where extroverts are coming from, because I'm an empath like that. Extroverts have been catching strays. You know, this subway take was intended to be spicy and inflammatory. That's kind of the whole point. But actually, I'm going to say, I do see some truth in what she's saying about the whole introverts thinking their thoughts are too great or whatever. I don't know how common it is, but I suppose there is this notion that introverts are like secret geniuses. I will be honest, I've had thoughts like, you know, the less you say, the more value your words hold. Or, you know, the loudest person in the room is almost never the smartest. Dear God, can you please stop talking? And I can also empathise with, you know, hearing someone say, oh, I think small talk is so frivolous. It can come off as a bit arrogant. You know, you may not want to share your deepest desires and traumas with someone on a first meeting at a work event. So the weather is a good place to start. I don't enjoy small talk, not because I think I'm above it, but because I find it kind of boring. You know, it's not about how highbrow the topic is. Like, please talk to me about Jersey Shore. Talk to me about My Little Pony. Talk to me about Vanderpump Rules. But yeah, I think because of the backlash, I've seen some sentiments where people say, you know, extroverts are narcissists, you know, oh, they're just so annoying, they're so needy, they're energy vampires. And that's not very nice either. You know, making someone feel bad for being loud and, you know, just being themselves is just as bad as making someone feel bad for being quiet and being themselves.
I can imagine an extrovert working from home full time, like losing their damn mind because they get no social interaction. For introverts, that's the dream.
So going back to this, I think she's highlighting something very important here. Being nicer to introverts shouldn't mean that we're just going to be less accommodating to extroverts. You know, working from home brings a lot of benefits to many people, but one of the major downsides is that there are workers who feel lonelier as a result. And while I am personally an introvert, I will acknowledge that part of community building is the ability to talk to your neighbours and talk to your community. Yeah, generally I prefer not to be bothered, but I know there are circumstances where it produces more good than bad. You know, on one end of the spectrum, women are stopped by creepy dudes, and it's not, you know, just for a conversation. But then on the other end of the spectrum, someone wanting to make a conversation with you isn't coming from a sense of entitlement, but a yearning for human connection. You know, elderly people and houseless people report to be some of the loneliest. Or, for example, when you, the viewers, come up to me in public, it genuinely makes my day. I might be a bit awkward and a bit bashful because I still find it kind of mad that people watch my videos even after 5 years of doing this. Yep, it's coming on 5 years. But the point I'm making in all this, I've done this in a very roundabout way. I've gone slightly off script today. I feel like we can find a way to accommodate people who don't like unplanned social interactions while still not creating an environment that feels like hostile and as if you're going to be called creepy for speaking to someone. I'm sure there's a way we can do that. Oh, also, it's worth noting that extroverts are often the only reason that a lot of us introverts have any friends, because they adopt us. They also do the heavy lifting for us at parties when we're going up to a group of people that we don't know. So honestly, thank you for your service. When we discuss all of this, we need to remember that this is, for the most part, from self-evaluation. Whether you're an introvert or an extrovert can change over your lifetime. You know, other people might perceive you as an extrovert, but actually you find it all very exhausting. You might be a quiet extrovert where you gain energy from being around people, but you're just not doing most of the talking. You know, it might be situational depending on the people you're surrounded with. You may not identify with either category, so you'd be classed as an ambivert, which at that point, I feel like the terms become a bit meaningless. But what do I know? In conclusion, I know this is a little ironic given that I've just made a whole video on this, but I'd say that these personality labels should be taken with a grain of salt. I do think that there can be a confirmation bias when other factors could be at play. What if you aren't actually, you know, super introverted, but you actually have anxiety that you're rationalizing away by saying, I'm an introvert and that's just how I am? There's a scene in Gilmore Girls season 1, episode 9, where there's a dance at Rory's school and Rory says she doesn't want to go. Lorelai, her mum, says to her, how do you know if you haven't been? And then she gives a speech saying that, you know, if you don't want to go, don't. But if it's fear that's stopping you, you should go. But then on the flip side, season 2, episode 7, Rory's fancy school tells her that she's not socializing enough with the people at her school and she's a loner, and Harvard won't like that. You know, it's a problem that she likes to listen to music and read at lunch. The horror. So they try to pressure her to socialize with people that she doesn't have much in common with, even though she has a boyfriend and friends from her hometown. Basically, it's just important to remember that people are multifaceted.
Live, laugh, Gilmore Girls.
Last but not least, we have the subscription pet shout out for this video. Arachnophobia warning. Arachnophobia warning. I'm giving you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so today we have a pair of spiders. A jumping spider and a tarantula. I think they're cute, but I'm aware some people do fear them. Gumby is a middle-aged baby man who loves to suck on his leggies. Lolly is a prissy girl who doesn't like to be bothered, but she's so nice and never bites or poops at people. They poop at people? You can use one or both of them. It felt mean to leave one out. And I wouldn't dare leave one out. Let's give both Gumby and Lolly a round of applause. Woo! 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 And thank you for watching today's video. See you in the next one. Bye-bye. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.